I want to welcome everybody to the meeting of the Mayor and Council for September 21st. I'm going to introduce two gentlemen, and after you perform your services, I'm going to ask you to stay, and I'll say a few things about you, okay? So first for our invocation is going to be Pastor Todd with True Life Church, and then for the Pledge of Allegiance will be Officer Anthony Allen with the Vilorica Police Department. So if everyone will please rise. Pastor Potts, if you'll come to the podium there. Todd, sorry.
All the wills bow our heads. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to just be alive and to be amongst great people. We pray, Lord God, that this meeting, for the minds and hearts of those individuals that are standing here today, we pray for your safety. We pray for them to have wise counsel. We pray that they make decisions based on their belief and heart, Lord God. We ask that you open up our minds and heart. We thank you for this great city, for this great people that represent this city. We ask that your protection over us as we move forward and do great things for our community, Lord God. We know that your blessings pour down from above, and we thank you, Lord God, from within our hearts that we can declare victory, we can declare peace, we can declare joy, we can declare long suffering, Lord God, in this presence. We ask you, Lord God, just to be with us and guide us into all truth. We honor you, Lord God, for the divine favor you bring into our lives in Jesus' name. And all that agree will say amen.
Amen. All right, Officer Allen, if you'll come up, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, sir. You all may be seated. And I've known Todd for a long time, and I actually, sometimes there's a Pastor Potts, I guess, that it threw me off just for a minute. So let me introduce you all, those who don't know him. Pastor Todd, a man of integrity and a leader at heart. Pastor Todd is the founder and lead servant at True Life Church in Vilorica. He started True Life in 2008, and it's grown to be an effective ministry in the community. He's a Vilorica High School graduate, has many accomplishments during his life journey. In the early days of his ministry, he accepted the life of a called and chosen minister. Pastor Todd works as a business professional and has built a reputation as an effective community advocate. He is married to LaToya Hudson. They have 3 sons, Caleb, Joshua, and Micah. Thank you for being here, sir. You all give him a hand. And leading us in the pledge tonight was our very own Officer Allen. Anthony Allen grew up in Carroll County, went to Vilorica High School and graduated in 2004. I didn't know you were that young. Anthony went to college at Jacksonville State University. He joined the United States Marines in 2010. His first duty station was Okinawa, Japan. In 2012, he went to training for Marine security guard, in which protected the United States embassies throughout the world. His first embassy duty was Bamako, Mali. Is that correct? Okay. West Africa. Second was, you went to too many strange places. Sana'a, Yemen, Middle East, and Tirana, Albania in Europe. During his embassy tour, he met John McCain and did security for Hillary Clinton. Anthony left the Marines in 2015 and has been with the Vilorica Police Department ever since. Thank you for your service, sir. All right, now we move on to the ceremonial presentations. This is a time when we recognize different employees, but tonight, everyone that we're recognizing are anniversary employees. So first up is Sharon Dupont, 5-year service. Is Sharon here? If you'll come on up. Miss Janet, would you come up and say a few words about Sharon? Y'all have that handheld mic ready? If you'll hand that to Miss Janet.
I'm so proud to have Miss Sharon on my staff, and I hope I don't get emotional, but I already am. She is an awesome person, and she is a great ambassador for the city of Vilorica. And she was recently awarded 2020 RVIC of the Year for the state of Georgia, so please give her a hand. An awesome person and an awesome mom. Thank you for being on my staff.
Thank you. All right. Then we've got Charlie Marlar, 5 years. Charlie, are you here? Come on up here. Who's going to say something about Charlie? Come on up here, Bobby. I mean, a lot of people could. I need to pick the most positive one. And that's usually Bobby. You do good, though. Go ahead.
Charlie is, he spent one life as a police officer for the University of West Georgia, retired, and been 5 years here. He is now doing my site inspections for erosion sediment control, and I'm so thankful that we've got him. We've commercial and residential construction has been picking up the last 3 years, and without him, I don't know what we'd do. So I'm tickled to death.
Well, thank you for 5 years, Charlie. All right. Did Lujan hang around? There he is. Come on up here. I don't know how I can miss you. Chief, you want to come up and say something about this fellow? Which one?
Paul Regan Clayton.
Yeah, I was. Okay.
Recognize it?
Absolutely, if you do.
You want to be recognized? You done called me out on it now.
Come on up here.
Tell the man no.
Well, I get that. All right, Paul Reagan Clayton, 5 years of service. Come on up here, sir.
All right, so Regan, we call him Regan.
Regan.
Regan worked for Carroll County for a long time. He's worked for other agencies before that. We hired him from Carroll County as an investigator. Since then, he's been moved to the Drug Task Force, where he's been just a really good guy, really good-hearted guy, a great family man, just a good person. We appreciate what he's done. 5 years. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. All right, Lujan. Come on up here.
I told Lujan I had about a page and a half to read on him, and he said he'd just sit there and be quiet, but I'm not going to do that to him. So Stephen Lujan was one of my students at West Georgia. He was a really good student. He made all good grades. He came to me one day. Well, I went to the bank, and he was working at the bank. And he said, "Chief, you need a good person." I said, "Yeah, do you know any?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I happen to." And I said, "Well, who would that be?" He said, "That'd be me." I said, "Well, dude, I can't hire you if you want to apply." So he did finally come and apply. And since then, he's been with us 15 years. He's rose to the rank of sergeant. Very strong sergeant, just does an outstanding job. Always considerate of other people, just as humble a person as you'll meet, just a quality guy. And we're just proud to have him 15 years.
Thank you, sir. Did Amanda stay with us?
Amanda did. Before I get to Amanda, though, don't you can come on up. So Anthony Allen, y'all recognized Anthony that did the Pledge of Allegiance. This is how old I am. Anthony was one of my DARE students. So I taught him in the 5th grade. Yeah, I know, I'm old. So Amanda is our court clerk. Amanda has held several positions with the department, and she shined in all of them, but buddy, when she took over court, it's awesome. She just does a magnificent job. I don't worry about court, and it's great not to have to worry about a part of your job like that. She handles things. She calls me and she says, "This is what we're going to do," and I say, "Yes, ma'am," and we move on. And but she's been with us 20 years, which is a major accomplishment. In Vilorica years, that's like 140. So we appreciate her, and she's just a great asset to our department. So we thank Amanda.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I told her she's going to have to give a speech. And she told me, "That's a good way for me not to be there, sir."
Well, after we took the photo earlier, she said she was going to make a beeline out of here, so I didn't know if she was still here. Okay, all right. Now we're going to move on to Proclamation for Constitution Week. The City of Vilorica Proclamation declaring Constitution Week. Whereas on September the 17th, 2021 marks the 234th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designation September 17 through 23 as Constitution Week, now therefore the Mayor and Council of Vilorica do hereby proclaim the week of September 17 through 23 to be Constitution Week. If y'all want to applaud that, that'd be good. All right, let's move on to the adoption of the agenda. We're moving right along tonight. Let's see. There were,
Mr. Mayor,
all right, Mr. Young, go ahead.
I'd like to table 4 items
All right.
to the October 12th meeting.
Go ahead.
The first one is C12, Amendment to Section 9.03, parentheses 2, multifamily and single-family attached design standards and public hearing. The second one is C13, revision to Vilorica development regulations relative to stream buffers. The third is D1, resolution of support for changes to state highway system and acceptance of 2 roadways. And the final fourth one is F1, amendment to ordinances for traffic calming.
Okay, does anyone see any other changes? All right, Mr. Barber, does that encompass all the items we discussed? Okay, thank you. All right, if there are no other changes proposed for the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda
I'll
as
move
amended.
to adopt the agenda as amended.
All right, have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? That's unanimous. All right. We will now move, and I'm gonna move these around again. I'm gonna ask the clerk to change this on the form. I want these in the opposite order. So I'm gonna move to public comments. I have a list here of folks who have already put their name down for public comments. I'm gonna ask you to please keep your comments on a professional level. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. If you deviate from this protocol, you'll receive a warning from the chair. If you deviate a second time, you'll be leaving. Only one person speaking at a time, and please no comments from the audience. Please only address your comments to the mayor and council. First up is Robbie Robinson. You here, sir?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to come up and give public comment, or are you here for a public hearing?
No, I'm here for a public hearing.
Okay, so, thank you. So let me clarify. If you are here for a public hearing, there'll be an opportunity at that particular item for a public hearing, okay? You don't need to put your name on the public comment sign-in sheet. And I guess that's probably the same for the second person, since the handwriting is exactly the same.
Sorry, it's the
That,
first meeting.
not a,
So I
hey,
didn't know.
listen, it happens every meeting. So is there anyone who did not sign up for public comments who would like to speak tonight? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments portion of the meeting, and we will move into council updates. Are there any council members who would like to give any updates at this time? Ms. McPherson. Oh, Ms. McPherson.
No, I'm actually,
Oh, you were leaning in. Okay, Ms. Marchman.
I can't see you unless I'm.
I would just like to publicly thank the city of Vilorica, especially the police department, but those that were supportive of me in the passing of my husband. I just want to publicly thank the city for all that they've done and the support that I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there anyone else who would like to give council updates? Mr. Young.
I think I'd like to mention that it looked like the city of Vilorica had a great time at Gold Rush, both at the concert on Friday night and during the festival on Saturday. The concert was wonderful. It was Eagles tribute band, great music. And then the festival on Saturday, a great parade, new parade route, and it worked out just fine. Great booths, great food, There were so many people there, I have to imagine everybody had a great time.
The weather was good.
All right, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I will close the council updates portion. Earlier today at a meeting of the mayor and council for a work session, we went through the work session agenda and created a list of consent items. These items are items that received no negative or objections to being placed on the consent agenda. Therefore, I'll read these items off, and when I have finished, I'll ask for a motion to amend or to approve the consent agenda. Item number 1, Flowers Bakery driveway culvert design. Item number 2, bathroom renovations at Gold Dust. Item number 3, library after hours meeting room use and fee schedule. Item number 4, reconfiguration and upgrade of network infrastructure. Item number 5, network room cleanup and network cable recertification at the police department and courtroom. Item number 6, ratification of emergency purchase of supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA system for the water plant. Item number 7, replacement of the Lake Cowan number 2 raw water pump. Item number 8, concrete removal at the old West Plant site. Item number 9, request approval of a 3-year proposal from Malden and Jenkins LLC to provide external audit and single audit services for fiscal years 21 through 23. Item number 10, approve additional services with Paycom. Item number 11, approval of second phase of professional services agreement with Gilbert, Harrell, Summerford, and Martin Law Firm. Item number 12, Three Rivers Commission, Area Agency on Aging contract for services for fiscal year 2023. Item number 13, set dates for 2021 cleanup week. And item number 14, Taste of Vilorica signage for Vilorica Lions Club. Does anyone see anything different? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? That's unanimous. All right, we'll move on to tab B, governing body. First item is the mayoral appointment of Richard L. Borger Jr. to the Housing Authority Board. That term will begin on 9/1/2021 and go through 8/31/2026. We'll get with Mr. Borger to do the oath and a picture after this. Okay, next item up. Now, this is the approval of the minutes for July 13th, for August 10th, and for August 31. Do all of these need to be tabled?
I think just July 13th, as far as I know. I don't see why we should table the other two, but as far as my issue is concerned.
Okay, we have one concern for July 13th, so I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of August 10th and August 31.
I move to approve the meeting minutes for August 10th and the adoption of millage minutes for August 31st.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of August 10th, 2021, and the adoption of the millage minutes of August 31, 2021. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? All right.
Do we need a formal
Let's
motion to
table.
Table?
Let's
Okay.
table. I want a motion to table the meeting minutes of July 13th
Make a motion to table the meeting minutes of July 13th, 2021
to the October meeting.
to October
Second.
meeting.
And a second. All right, I have a motion and a second to table the meeting minutes of July 13th, 2021 to October. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. All right, moving right along to community development. Bobby Elliott. All right, the first item up is ABL-08-21 to allow pouring of alcoholic beverages for Taqueria Tapatios LLC located at 451 West Bankhead Highway, Vilorica, Georgia. This item will have a public hearing. Mr. Elliott, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, this is a new license for a new restaurant. I believe it is located in the Strip Center behind the SunTrust Banking Center. The applicant's Taqueria Tapatios LLC. Licensee is Gonzalo Melendez Gonzalez. He resides at 38 Hidden Valley Drive, Vilorica, Georgia. The location is 451 West Bankhead Highway, Suite 113, Vilorica, Georgia, 30180. This applicant has complied with the ordinance in regard to the legal notification requirements and has passed a background check conducted by the Vilorica Police Department. And there are no location restrictions, zoning restrictions that would hinder the issuance of the ordinance. And I believe, is the applicant here? The applicant is here. I think he was asked 2 times today to be sure to be here tonight. So,
Well, that was going to be my first question, is if the applicant was here. All right, council, do you have any questions for staff? All right, if there are no questions for staff, I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Would the applicant please come up? Council, do you have any questions for the applicant or for staff at this time? All right, if not, I'll ask the city attorney to address the applicant.
Yes, a couple of questions for the applicant. Mr. Gonzalez, do you understand that there are laws against serving underage individuals?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that the Vilorica Police will conduct undercover operations to see if establishments are violating those laws?
Yes, sir.
And do you think you can comply with the laws against serving underage persons?
We do.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir. All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the foreign license restaurant application for, Taquilla, I don't know what it is, Tapos?
Taqueria Tapatios.
That's a good one. LLC, located at 451 West Bankhead Highway, Vilorica, Georgia, 30180.
All
That's
right,
why I hesitated.
do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve the pouring license, and I have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed?
I only know how to say
You're
that
gonna
one.
get it. 4 to 1.
Pronounce it for the first part, but Tapatios,
All right.
because I have another.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Okay, we're going to move on to C2, South Harbor Unit 2A, final plat approval, and there will also be a public hearing on this item. Mr. Elliott.
Mr. Mayor, we have South Harbor 2A was, I think, sold before we went through the process formally for the Mirror Lake Revised Master Plan. It has 48 lots. It was all the infrastructure and roads and everything were put in, and when the downturn happened back in 07, 08, the shade was just pulled on it. It was never platted. So we've been busy along with the builder that bought the lots, re-inspecting everything, pressure testing everything, videoing the sewer system, the whole 9 yards on it. Everything is fine. We've received the maintenance bond on the development. Streetlight fees have been paid. They even agreed, even though it was not part of the master plan revision, to abide by the conditions set forth by South Harbor Unit 2B as far as minimums, house sizes, and everything. And it's, y'all don't have that plat you can pull up, do you? Anyway, these zoning conditions for the 2B section are printed on the final plat for this one, so they will run with the property. And we recommend approval.
Yep, I saw those actually on the plat. Okay, council, do you have any questions for staff at this time? All right, if there are no questions, I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. Bobby, is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this item? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion and revert back to staff and council. Council, do you have any questions for Bobby at this time? And scroll down just a little bit so you can see the conditions. They're down here at the bottom.
There they are. Mhm.
There you go. It's
Too
tiny
far.
writing, but they're actually on the plat, so they will run with this plat. All right, if there are no questions for Bobby, is there a motion?
I move to approve the final plat for South Harbor Unit 2A.
All right.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the final plat. I have a second from Mr. Montahan. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All right, that's unanimous.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bobby. All right. Let's move to C3. ALT-02-21, extension of rezoning for Avamore, RA-06-18, and clarification of the number of senior housing units approved in 2018. This item will also have a public hearing. I know we talked a little bit about this item in work session, but I'll ask Ron to briefly introduce it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. We have an application before us for an alteration to the and an extension of the rezoning for Avamore, which was application RA-0618, which was approved in 2018. In addition to a clarification on the number of senior housing units that were approved at that time and in 2019 when the final concept plan was approved by the City Council. As we know, this is a PUD development, and in 2019 the City Council approved a zoning book that had the total number of units for single family and multifamily as a part of this this development, as a part of that rezoning. And that applicant is now back before us to try to clarify, being that the 2019 zoning booklet did not actually have numbers for the senior housing. So, and just as a quick recap, in 2018, there was, there was a total of 140 to 160 independent living units and 28 assisted living units that were approved, and that did not show back up in the 2019 zoning booklet. So there's two different actions that is being requested tonight. One action is for that extension for 1 year, which is what we did last year as well, and also to permit 290 units of senior housing at the request of the developer. The Planning Commission did take a look at this as well. It went to their meeting, and it was approved 4-0. And a part of that was a discussion on what exactly is senior housing, if there's a definition or not. So I believe Avery.
Avery, do you have a definition for us?
Yes. So the FHA Fair Housing Act does prohibit discrimination on age and family status. The most common exception to that rule is known as the 55 and up rule. So, so the condition referring to 55 and older people would be referring to that FHA exemption that's, again, commonly known as the 55 and older rule, which states that 80% of the units have at least one occupant 55 age and older. They have to publish rules stating that they intend to comply with the FHA regulations for the exemption, and they have to comply with the HUD age verification process. So that would be the condition.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a little more liberal than I thought. I thought that number was closer to 90%. Okay, continue on, Ron.
Just with the second item, a total number of 250 single-family units and 325 multifamily units have already been approved for the property. So this would be in addition to that 290 that is being requested. That's it.
Okay. So, Council, do you have any questions for staff at this time before I open a public hearing? All right, if there are no questions, I'm going to open a public hearing on this and ask if there's anybody here who would like to speak for or against this rezoning. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and I'll revert back to staff and council. Do you have any questions for staff now? If not, I'll entertain a motion. All right, Mr. Young.
Ron, I know we brought this up in the work session, but would you make sure we get a new construction timeline as soon as it's available?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll send that out to the council as well.
All right. Any other questions?
Did you want to, about the applicant? Did we already ask what the applicant, if the applicant wants to say anything?
Yeah.
Is the applicant here?
He's here. Their representative engineer, Hunter.
Sir, would you like to come up and say anything? Well, I mean, listen, usually if somebody has a question, I bring you up. But if nobody does, I think he just wants to give you stage time.
Well,
All right.
I just want
I just want to make sure, I guess, of the applicant, if he has any objection to the kind of revised condition that Avery kind of set forth.
You mean
there.
the actual definition of the senior?
Right, Avery, because I understand that you would want us to kind of incorporate what you said there into the condition. Am I correct?
Sir, was that your understanding that you would be in the 55 and up for the senior living? It seemed like it, but it's good to clarify it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, if there are no additional questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve an extension of the Avamore rezoning and all conditions for a period of 1 year from today. I move to modify the conditions approved in 2019 for RA-06-18 to permit the addition of no more than 290 units of senior housing with a minimum age of 55. That hurts. 55 is a senior. On the property, in addition to the 250 single-family and 325 multifamily units approved.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second. Should we take those one at a time?
No, we'll take them just like that. All right,
Okay.
is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? All right, that'll be unanimous. All right, we will move along. Thank you, Ron, although you don't get to go anywhere. Okay, C4, RA-07-21, parcel number V06-004-0139, 116 Reed Road, Inline Communities LLC of Atlanta, Georgia, has requested a rezoning of a 75-acre vacant parcel from single-family agriculture, which is AG, to single-family urban, R2, and there'll be a public hearing on this item. Would you go ahead and introduce this item, Ron?
Absolutely. RA-07-21 is a rezoning of a vacant 75-acre parcel that's located on Tolbert Drive / Reed Road. This would be directly near and across the street from the Starbucks on Highway 61. The applicant is proposing a total of 194 detached single-family homes in addition to 3 different amenities for the parcel. There's a total of 4 different staff recommendations, or staff conditions rather, as a part of my recommendation for approval for this item. And I can read these out. I don't know if you want me to.
Yes, I actually would like you to read each of the conditions.
Sure. First condition is receipt of a favorable sewer and water capacity letter from the city's utilities department guaranteeing availability to service all lots within the proposed development within 60 days. This letter must be on file with the city's community development department upon receipt. The second condition is the applicant must comply with all recommendations found within the traffic report dated August 23rd, 2021, prepared by A&R Engineering, Inc. The third condition is the applicant must address the Reed Road / Tolbert Drive and South Carroll Road intersection in the form of a traffic study. And the fourth condition is...
Finish reading that sentence, please.
Right.
He's reading the modified.
There's 5 on here.
There should be 4 total.
Well, hold on.
Right, but the
Well, then I'm going to read it. And all recommendations of that study are to be implemented at the recommendation of the Community Development Director and Engineer. Well, that's not in the motion that I have.
No, we
That's
handed out what the applicant had. I emailed added copies here for the packet. And emailed them out.
Is that all you're going to strike out of what I have here?
No.
I need it to be what's in the packet.
Okay, I get it. I see it. Yeah, okay.
Where's it at?
It's in the email. And so what they did was they struck that last half of stipulation 3. They removed the $25,000 requirement and instead did the $1,500 a lot.
Okay,
condition.
and that's what I saw earlier, but not in the packet. So that should have been replaced earlier today. All right. When did the email come out?
It was 2:46 this afternoon.
All right.
Yeah, this is the old one.
I don't have one at 2:46. I've got 5:01, which is
Okay,
basically.
all right, all right. So we do have one. I'm going to ask you to finish reading the rest of it as you have it.
Okay.
And then we'll move forward from there. And we'll need to make sure that this is updated in the packet. It is at 2:46. I'll forward it to y'all if you didn't get it.
Sure. The last condition here is the developer shall contribute no more than $1,500 per lot to the cost of traffic improvements.
Which means you struck out the 25 that Matthew just talked
Yeah,
about.
that
Okay.
second line there, yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, let's do this. Let's, while everybody gets a copy of that. You have it up? I'm going to see if council has any questions for staff. You understand the gist of this item. There's just a little bit of a technical issue on the printout. So, Matthew, does anybody have any questions on it?
Well, I need to read it.
Well, just the condition is,
The condition, and if I remember what he said, because I don't have it in front of me, they struck out a traffic study on Reed Road.
not the whole thing. Hold on.
No.
Hold on, because that'll get confusing.
It's already confusing.
Is that the correct one?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's the correct
Yes.
one. All right, you can see it behind you. Michael. Oh, you have it, okay.
So they struck out all recommendations of that study are to be implemented. Just must address the Reed Road, Talbot Drive, and South Carroll Road intersection in the form of a traffic study, but it doesn't say they have to implement those recommendations.
They're gonna contribute money and we're gonna do it.
Right.
Are they gonna pay for the traffic study?
Yes.
They have to do the traffic study, but we're gonna do the construction.
And that's where the 1,500 per parcel comes in? Yeah. I'm sorry. Agreeable to both parties?
Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at that? Do you have any questions for Ron? All right, if there are no questions, I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. Is there anybody here who would like to speak for or against this item? Mr. Fowler, come on up, state your name and address for the record. Are you speaking as representative of the applicant?
I am.
All right, go ahead.
My name is Joe Fowler. I'm a lawyer in Douglasville, Georgia, Post Office Box 49 in Douglasville. Let me introduce Mr. Brian Musoff, who is one of the principals, along with Casey Cagle. They are with Inline Communities, the applicant for the rezoning, and John Thomas, who did the traffic study and will do the follow-up traffic study, is here in the audience as well. You heard the proposal for the 190 single-family homes. The site is 2.6 homes per acre. It's got 25.4% green space. It will generally follow the site plan that you've been provided. I will note that the applicant consents to the 4 conditions that were read. It was initially 5. There were discussions about how that was to be developed, and you see the 4 that are there. We agree with all of those. In addition, let me just say something about the matter that was discussed this afternoon that was raised by Councilmember Young regarding the private road that's between Starbucks and the other restaurant that's close by. That is not proposed as an entrance to or exit from the subdivision. If you look carefully at the traffic counts, you'll see a number 11/7, that's morning and afternoon counts, or in and out, morning and afternoon. And in good faith, what they were thinking is some of the people who live there may go by Starbucks to get coffee on the way to work. Starbucks may not like it. There's only 7 to 10 estimated that coming morning or evening, but that's the general idea there. That is not proposed as an entrance or an exit. So the stipulations that are on the board there now are perfectly agreeable. I will note also that Mr. Mulsoff, Mr. Cagle, and I met with Councilmember Montmahan to discuss a general outline of other stipulations. I've discussed them with some of you already that I was able to reach by telephone. And I don't know, Councilman Montmahan, if you'd like to introduce those at this point.
Well, let's just hold on till we get to a motion, if that's going to happen. If you would like to review them, you can.
What I would say at this point is that if it's all right with you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mussoff will come up and do that.
That'd be
That's all right.
fine. Does this generally look like what you are about to discuss?
I'm going to give a presentation, and if we could pull up the presentation that was in the email, I'll go over that, and I'm happy to go over that list as well, or Councilman Montmahan can also do that as well. So I'm fine either way, but if it's okay, I do have them right here. I can go over them. And I think they're going to pull up the presentation right now. So Mayor and Council, thank you very much for having us this evening. Very happy to be here and grateful to be able to present in front of you all this evening. Excited about bringing a very quality project to the city, hopefully. I'm going to try to keep this brief, so I'm just going to kind of run through these slides and leave plenty of time for any questions, because there may be some. And just as kind of a general, overview of kind of how we got here, as y'all may or may not know, this is owned by the hospital authority, and we're under contract to purchase it from them. And if this were to be zoned, we would be closing on the land within 30 days of it being, zoned for the property. So, real quick, everyone I think knows where the location is, south of 60 or east of 61, south of 20. We've talked about kind of that entrance. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please, and it'll blow it up a little bit. That's okay. Maybe if you expand the screen, it might help it up in the top right. There you go. Great. So as y'all know, we're surrounded by single family to the north and the south. As Mr. Fowler just mentioned, we are asking for a straight R2 zoning at 2.6 lots to the acre. As you can see, the neighborhoods that are immediately to the north and south are both slightly more dense than what we're showing and requesting. And then obviously we've got the commercial out front. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please. And as I think Ron mentioned, the future land use is suburban village, which supports R2, as y'all probably are aware, also supports townhome development, PDs, a lot of other zonings as well. Early on, we met with staff, we met with Mr. Barber, we met with Ron, and they really kind of pushed us based on what their understanding of the council's tolerance is. You need to do this as an R2. That's really the best zoning here, and so that's why we're here in front of you with an R2 zoning with no variances, a straight R2 zoning here. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please. And so the site plan, a lot of the highlights are to the right, so I won't go, everyone can read, but I'm really excited about this site plan. I think it's going to lay out really nicely. We've got a park preservation area at the entrance, which, as Mr. Fowler mentioned, is not in line with the entrance to the Starbucks and everything else. That's further to the south from us by about 250 or 300 feet. But we've got a great entrance where, if anyone's familiar with the site, it's got some beautiful big oaks out front of it. We're going to preserve that green space, as you can see at the front, to try to preserve as many of those oaks as we can. And then we've done some things in the neighborhood that aren't required by a straight R2 zoning, but we think make a lot of sense, and we think it's going to make for a great project. As you can see, we've got a huge park in the center of the neighborhood where we've got homes fronting on it on all four sides. And in that park, we're planning on doing both a tot lot, so small little playground, as well as we'll also have a picnic area. And then right before the stream crossing, you'll see we also have a swim amenity. So we'll have a pool, a good-sized pool and a cabana and area over there, as well as additional green space over there. And then along the stream areas and throughout the whole neighborhood, we'll have sidewalks on both sides, but we'll also have walking paths. And we've got planned out about a 3/4 loop of walking trails, not including any sidewalks, that will mostly be in the stream buffer, just on the edges of the stream buffer area and the floodplain areas that you see there. It's really actually all stream buffer. I don't think there's any floodplain. And then as you go through the neighborhood, we've tried to really kind of reduce the amount of straightaways so that it, you've got a really good neighborhood feel. A lot of green space, and as I mentioned, green space is spread throughout. 100% two-car garage homes in the neighborhood, and as Mr. Fowler mentioned, 25% open space, which is, I believe, almost 3 times what is actually required by the ordinance. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please. So these are just some examples of the types of amenities we plan to have in the neighborhood, both in the open park spaces, playgrounds, pool, cabana, all that sort of thing. If you don't mind going to the next one. And here's just all the elevations, I think, and you can probably go through all these. You all have done a great job with your code as far as what is required from a housing standpoint, from an elevation. I was very surprised, to be honest, with the amount of architectural elements that are required in order for something to be approved. And so so everything that we just showed from an elevation standpoint, I think those will all comply with that ordinance or surpass it. But you guys have done a great job with that, and I applaud you for that. Real quick, this is just a little commercial on the need for new housing, and it's a nationwide issue. We see it all over the metro area as well, but it's really critical here. I mean, there's only 14 homes listed for sale in the city of Vilorica as of today. I checked that today. So, I mean, if you want to move to Vilorica right now, you don't have a lot of options. That's just the reality of it. And you're 1/6 of what would be a healthy supply of housing. There should be closer to 100 homes on the market in Vilorica today. And so that we see that as an opportunity for both the city, from an infrastructure standpoint, from a tax base standpoint, from putting households that'll support retail, all those sorts of things, as well as obviously an opportunity for us to bring a quality project to the area. So we're excited about it. I think I may have 1 or 2 more slides. So yeah, I'm actually going to hand this over to my traffic engineer, because was paid to do a really expensive $10,000 study, and so I'm going to make him work for it a little bit and let him talk a little bit about the traffic study, and then and then he and I can answer any questions y'all have. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for your time. My name is John Edge. I'm with A&R Engineering. We prepared the traffic study for this development, and I'm going to try to keep this short as well. I just wanted to hit on a couple key items, kind of traffic related to this development. There are 2 driveways proposed off Tolbert, one being a full access, one being a kind of emergency vehicle access that's going to be further to the south. One thing I do want to point out is the full access driveway will be north of the right-in, right-out driveway between Bojangles and Starbucks. So those driveways won't align to try to alleviate traffic, prohibit them from using that right-in, right-out private road to access the site. Now from Tolbert, there are 2 access points to reach State Route 61. One of them being up at South Carroll Drive to the north, the other being south down Tolbert Drive, also at State Route 61. Both of them have median brakes, meaning cars can turn left and access the site. That way they can turn right out. So there's really 2 main access points that will be utilized. One thing I did want to point out as part of it's on page 11 if you have the traffic study available, not sure. So really recommendations for road improvements are based on peak hours and trips generated during the peak hour. And going off the largest peak hour for this development, it's 121 cars entering the development. And if you break that down, 60 minutes in an hour, 121 cars, it's really 2 cars an hour that we're going to be adding to Tolbert. And if you take into account directional travel, it's really 1 car in each direction each hour during the worst peak hour. So I don't think the traffic we're adding to Tolbert is really that substantial. Now, I know the intersection of South Carroll and Tolbert has kind of been a talking point, and just kind of want to reiterate, based on those peak hour numbers, the traffic we're generating there is really minor in nature, and you know, system improvements that involve, you know, realigning that intersection or acquiring adjacent right-of-way from landowners, whatever it may be, is not really being generated by this development, and the numbers there really don't justify that sort of action. One last thing is, you know, that we did look at these peak hours traffic, and we are recommending a left turn and a deceleration lane for the proposed driveway. And if you look around a lot of similar developments in the area, that's not really consistent with those. So we're trying to, you know, improve the road system in front of the development as much as possible. I think those are really the main talking points.
Okay. All right. So you guys came up during the middle of a public hearing, so let me still leave it there. Is there any members of the public here who would like to speak for or against this project? Okay. If not, I'm going to close the public hearing portion, and now I'll open it up if council has any questions for the applicant or any of these representatives. The traffic guy, the presentation guy, Mr. Fowler. Anybody got any questions? All right, if not, Ron, would you come back up? Does anybody have any questions for Ron? I'll let you get to those.
Okay. I didn't know
in just
when
a
you
second.
wanted to do that. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Ron? All right. So this is actually in your ward, is that correct?
Yes, Mayor.
All right. I will yield to you for a motion, and if you make one to approve this, please include these by reference.
So you don't want me to list them out? Just
You
by
can do whatever
reference?
makes you feel good.
Okay. Well, I guess, so I met with the, I'll make a motion to approve. I move to approve the rezoning request from Inline Communities LLC of Atlanta, Georgia for rezoning from AG to R2 with the aforementioned conditions as outlined by staff and the 10 additional conditions that arose out of discussion with the applicant or developer. Those conditions being, 1, the applicant developer owner agrees to construct a minimum of 8 elevations and a minimum of 5% of each elevation shall be constructed. The applicant developer owner agrees that at least 50% of the homes on a corner lot must have a side load garage. The applicant developer owner agrees that site neighborhood development amenities include a pool and cabana, walking trail, tot lot, and picnic, cookout, barbecue, grilling area. The applicant developer owner agrees that the proposed pool will have a minimum surface area of 1,500 square feet. The applicant developer owner agrees to include a community green as part of the site neighborhood development's open green space requirement, substantially similar in size and scope as proposed in the concept zoning plan. The applicant developer owner agrees to install sidewalks on both sides of internal streets along the frontage of Tolbert Reed Road. The applicant developer owner agrees to submit the site neighborhood development to covenants pursuant to the Georgia Property Owners Act, that's OCGA 44-3-2020 and subsequent. The applicant developer owner agrees to be responsible for incorporating a minimum of 1 traffic calming practice in accordance with the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE manual for traffic calming along the main entrance road internal to the neighborhood. The practice may include a stop sign, road diet, speed hump, or other device which shall be approved through the civil plan review process. The applicant developer owner acknowledges that water and sewer availability is not expressly implied as a result of zoning. The applicant developer owner agrees and acknowledges that all conditions or stipulations of rezoning shall bind applicant developer owner, successors, and assigns. And the applicant developer owner agrees that the covenants, conditions, and restrictions for the property shall include a clause that limits the maximum number of units that can be rented or leased within the development at any one time to 10% or less of the total homes. However, if all the homes are owned by one entity and governed by a third-party management company, then the rental restriction shall be waived in its entirety.
Okay, can we reference those additional 10 items as Exhibit A?
Yes.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion to approve the rezoning request from Inline Communities LLC of Atlanta, Georgia for rezoning from AG to R2 with the aforementioned conditions as outlined by staff and to include the additional conditions on Exhibit A as voiced by Councilman Montahan. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All right, that is unanimous. Thank you. Good job, Joe. All of them haven't been unanimous when you've been here. But they've come close. Thank you, sir. All right, let's move on to C5. Liberty Point Unit 4 Final Plat. This item will also have a public hearing. Let's wait just a minute and let everybody rush out. All right, Mr. Elliott, go ahead.
Mayor, this is a continuation of...
Is that mic on?
It is now.
Good.
This
Go
is a
ahead.
continuation of the Liberty Point subdivision that's been under construction now for probably 2.5 years now. It's 25 total lots and the extension of one short street. We've reviewed the plat for content, and we've got a maintenance bond posted, and street light fees have been paid. We recommend approval.
All right. Are there any questions for staff? All right. If there are no questions for staff, I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against this item? All right. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We'll revert back to staff and council. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the final plat for Liberty Point Unit 4.
All right. I have a motion to approve the final plat for Liberty
Second.
Point Unit 4. I have a second from Mr. Young. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? In favor? All right, unanimous.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, we're going to move on to C6. This is VA-08-21. I'm going to take all three of 6, 7, and 8 together. VA-08-21 352 Jada Lane, VA-09-21 403 Jada Lane, VA-10-21 405 Jada Lane. These are requests for variances. They will also have a public hearing. I'll take them together, but we'll do the motion separate. All right, go ahead, Ron.
Yes, VA-08-21 references 352 Jada Lane. The applicant is WJH LLC of Norcross, Georgia, and they're requesting a variance from front yard setback requirements. They're requesting a 14.5-foot front yard setback, whereas 25 feet is required. Application VA-09-21 is 403 Jada Lane, and they're requesting 17.5-foot front yard setback, whereas 25 foot is required. And VA-10-21 is 405 Jada Lane, also 22.5-foot front yard setback, whereas 25 foot is required. So all three of these developments have been filed. All three of these variances have been filed by the same developer. This is the Liberty Point community. This would be in their third phase, phase 3. And two of these lots, 403 and 405, are directly next to each other, and 352 is in a more finished area, and this is the remaining lot in that section of the phase. So staff is actually recommending denial for all three of these variances, and the reason being is the applicant has created these conditions, being that they're the original developer that has platted these phases, all three of them, and has started this subdivision. So at that time, they knew the types of housing and plans and elevations that they were going to utilize, and their excuse or their reasoning for the variances is that they don't have a house plan that would actually fit on these lots. So in either case, this is an entirely self-imposed variance request as far as the staff can see.
All right. Is the applicant here? All right. So let me first see if council has any questions for staff before I bring the applicant up. All right, applicant, if you would come up. First, I'll give you an opportunity to say anything you want to say, and then we'll see if council has any questions.
Well, my name is Daniel Love. Daniel Love, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak, Mr.
Did you say
Mayor.
Daniel Love?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm a representative of Century Complete Way Journey LLC.
Okay.
I'm standing in for someone who was sick, so I'm not real prepared for this. But basically, like you said, the lot size dictates that we can't build a house on these lots that meets the square footage requirements just due to the size of the lot. And he is right, as far as the due diligence wasn't there on our part to make sure we could, build on every lot in the community. So that is on us, but we're just asking for some leniency to get these houses built.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Love? All right, if there are no questions, Mr. Love, I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. You have a seat over there for just a moment, just in case something does come up. All right, I'm going to open this up for a public hearing. Is there anybody here who would like to speak for or against any of these three items? Sir? If you would come up, please give us your name and address for the record, and then we'll give you 3 minutes to speak. And I'm going to trust you on that because the clerk don't have it pulled up.
I appreciate that.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Jeff. I appreciate it, Mayor. I want to speak in favor of it, and the reason is because these people.
Well, let me get your name
Oh,
and
I'm
address.
sorry. It's Robbie Robinson,
Robbie
Liberty
Robinson.
Custom Homes, and live in Douglas County.
All right, go ahead.
These people bought the property after it was already developed. And so they had the square footages that was required by the community, and we wanted to get more double garages instead of singles for the community. And so these lots kind of got wedged in, and they're good lots, they're buildable lots, but the side setbacks, because of the corners in the back, have cut them off and made them have to be arranged different. And so keeping the same square footage, and the houses over there that are basically have done a really, really good job. They have models there that they conform to the rest of the subdivision, so nothing looks kind of out of place or weird. And that's the only thing that we had to, because they weren't involved in the starting of the subdivision.
Okay.
So they didn't actually know that at the time.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Okay, is there anybody else here who would like to speak for or against these? All right, seeing nobody else, I'm going to close the public hearing portion. Ron, come back up for a second. Sure. What are the setbacks? Are the setbacks front setbacks or side setbacks?
Front setbacks.
I thought they were. I thought somebody just said a side setback. Okay. All right. Council, do you have any questions for staff or for the applicant?
For Ron, yes.
All right, Ms. McPherson.
So Ron, are the rest of the houses all built there according to the required setbacks?
I have not looked at all the other houses, but it would have been required for them to get building permits that they would have to submit a sketch of where exactly the houses would be located with dimensional requirements. So that would have to be required for all of the houses.
Okay, and also, how do you see the impact when you lessen that amount with, car parking, with the driveway, that sort of thing, and now you've made it shorter to the side? Could you expound on that just a little bit?
Yes. So with every reduction that we have in the depth of a lot, of course, the driveway as well would suffer as far as the total amount of cars that can actually be parked inside of the driveway since it's shorter. So it would not be unreasonable to assume that street parking would be a significant, it would be a spillover into street parking throughout the development, depending on, of course, how many units that you're talking about. But because of the density of this development and where two of these lots are located right next to each other, for example, so the chances of that impacting that vicinity is probably much higher.
Okay, because, just looking at one of them, which is 352 Jada Lane, that's a difference of 10 and a half feet
That's
on the
correct.
driveway, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Any other questions for staff
I
or
have a
the
question.
applicant?
So,
Mr.
Ron,
Montahan.
403 and 405 Jada Lane are right next to each other?
They are, yes. And 403 is, on the opposite side of that, is a small sliver of common space.
Okay. And so, I guess, would it be possible if they just built one house on, like, combined those lots, and then they wouldn't need the setback?
It's most certainly
variance?
possible, yes.
Okay.
And but combining those two lots, being that they're side by side, I'm not sure what that would do for the front yard setback.
Okay.
But there is, the key thing here for those two lots, 403 and 405, the entire rear section is, would actually be the plat that you just approved.
Okay.
Phase
Right.
4, right. So it would have been possible to maybe, I guess, add more property to these two lots in order to push the houses back, but I'm not sure if that was looked at or anything by the applicant.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Is there any other questions for staff or the applicant? All right. If there are none, I'm going to yield to Mr. Young for a motion on each of these. This is in your ward, correct?
Yes.
All right. So let's take the 352 Jada Lane first.
I move to deny the variance request by WJH LLC of Norcross, Georgia, in favor of keeping the front yard setback requirement at 25 feet.
Second.
All right. I have a motion to deny the variance request, and I have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? All right. That's unanimous. All right. Mr. Young, I'll take C7.
I move to deny the variance request by WJH LLC of Norcross, Georgia, in favor of keeping the front yard setback requirement at 25 feet.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to deny this variance, VA-09-21, 403 Jada Lane. I have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? All right, that's unanimous. All right, Mr. Young, take VA-10-21.
405 Jada Lane. I move to deny the variance request by WJH LLC of Norcross, Georgia, in favor of keeping the front yard setback requirement at 25 feet.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to deny the variance request for VA-10-21, 405 Jada Lane. Have a second from Mr. Carter. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? That's unanimous. All right, all three of those will be denied. All right, let's move on to C9, special exception, requesting an exemption to section 9.37H of the Vilorica sign ordinance. This item will also have a public hearing, and it's going to be Mr. Montesinos. Chris, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Just as a point of clarification to the agenda itself, the first request for a special exception, which is formerly known as a variance, is an exemption from section 9.37H of the Vilorica sign ordinance. And to be more specific, what that requires and what the reference is that there has to be at least a 500-foot setback from any interstate on or off ramp for the location of a billboard sign. So just to kind of clarify what that's about. The second special exception request, as articulated there, is a 25-foot setback, and that's a 25-foot setback away from the DOT property line along the I-20 interstate. So that said, I have identified in the staff report that for the one location, the first application here related to the siting of a billboard at the intersection of Interstate 20's westbound off-ramp.
Hang on just a second, Chris. That one's a little loud. All right, go ahead.
Sure. The location of the billboard is being proposed at the intersection of the westbound I-20 off-ramp and Liberty Road. There's property there that's owned by Mr. Larry Boggs. The second application is for a property on the corner of Edge Road and Daniel Road, which they're requesting the 25-foot setback from the interstate property line. In the first case, they, in their application, have not really articulated any specific grounds for relief with respect to any great practical difficulty or any undue hardship with the application of the ordinance. The second one, however, which is the location at Daniel and Edge Road, they have articulated the fact that a setback of 25 feet would put them close, if not into the utility corridor with power lines running along that section. So that does indicate that there is a great practical difficulty with respect to the siting of the billboard as a contrast to public safety and the utility transmission lines.
Okay, so what you've done is you've actually taken up C9 and C10?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's the same applicant.
And then, just as a housekeeping matter, why are we calling this a special exception as opposed to a variance?
Because when we adopted the new zoning ordinance, the term variance went away and it became a special exception. It's just vernacular.
Listen, if we change that again, I want to bring that word back because that's awfully confusing, and I like the word variance better, okay? All right, so what we're doing here is we're going to, both of these items kind of go together, so I'm going to hold the public hearing for both of them together. But let me start with, Council, do you have any questions for staff, for Chris?
Already
All
did
right.
all mine.
You already did all
Did
yours?
mine.
Okay, anybody else? Mr. Moptahan.
Just to clarify, Chris, staff is recommending for C9, recommending denial, but for C10, recommending approval. Because what is the articulation of the hardship for C10?
The articulation for the hardship would be that a 25-foot setback from the right-of-way line or the property line from Interstate 20 would push the billboard further to the south into the easement for the power lines. And so that would constitute a great practical difficulty with respect to meeting the setback requirements without creating a potentially hazardous situation.
In the power lines. Okay, I
Thank you,
understand
sir.
that. All right, any other questions for staff?
On second thought.
All right,
Chris,
Ms. McPherson.
on that same side, what is the requirement already by GDOT as far as how far back they are from the road?
They don't articulate anything other than the fact that the billboard cannot extend over their right-of-way. In addition, under the old sign ordinance, billboards did not have a required setback from the interstate as they do currently. And so all the existing billboards that are along that corridor would be contiguous with this recommended exception.
Okay, all right. Any
No,
other
just
questions?
somehow I was thinking that it was already really broad setbacks for the GDOT, but
All
maybe
right.
I'm not remembering that.
I'm going to give an opportunity for the app. All right, go ahead.
What's the amount of the modification on 10?
That's a good question. Let me look that up real quick.
Now, are you referring to the number of feet? Okay, I just want to be I want to be sure what he's going to answer.
That I don't know. If you could ask the applicant, he may know it off the top of his head. I'm just looking through the application and I don't see it articulated. I think it looks like it's for the full 25 foot. From what I can see in the application.
I do think that I heard it was the full 25 feet already.
Yeah.
Is that, are you good? You answer? All right. Okay, let me invite the applicant to come up, if you'd like to. Is it you, Alan? And I'll give you an opportunity. If you'll give us your name and address for the record, we'll hear from you, and then we'll do a public hearing after that.
All right. Mayor and City Council, my name's Alan Gaston. I live 403 Shady Valley Court, Carrollton, Georgia. I've got my son here, Reed, works with me with Gaston Outdoor. I'd like to address these individually first. The first project is on Larry Boggs and Kip Berry's property. And they're both here in the audience here. If you want to ask them any questions about this project, but I have a legal billboard permit to erect a billboard structure on this property, and it was signed by the city of Vilorica, saying that it meets all regulations, codes, everything about it. It's ready to erect. But when I went to get a building permit from the city, they would not issue me one because they said, while your the DOT's permit is good for a year, and during that year, it's a long road to get to the billboard structure. So I've been working on that road to get to the spot and getting help and everything. It's real wet, and so the permit's good for a year, so I'm going to get, trying to get the building permit, but they won't issue me one, just like what I said, because of, but during that time period of my permit with the DOT and the city, they changed the sign ordinance that says you can't put structures on exit and entrance ramps. There's one across the interstate by the Chevron station that's on the exit ramp, the entrance ramp there. But when this permit was given to me, the city signed off on everything saying that you're legal to put this structure up. But I want to repeat, during the meantime, the sign ordinance changed, but my permit was still good to erect the structure.
Sir, do you remember when your permit was issued?
The date?
Yes, sir.
I don't have the exact date.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
But so I feel like that this structure should be grandfathered in because it was, everything was legal when I got everything signed off on, and it changed in the meantime. And the 25-foot setback, there's 180 feet from here, from the exit ramp to where the DOT right-of-way is. So I'm asking for the, I guess it'd be a 24-foot variance because the state makes you have a requirement of 1 foot just to get off the right-of-way. And the landowner also wants me to stay as close as I can to the fence because it gets more wet the further you go back, and it also gets into anything they want to develop by pushing over into their property. And so I just feel like that on this one here, I just feel like that, and with the 25-foot setback, 1 foot is pretty much the consistent of all the billboard structures, all down I-20, just enough to get off the right-of-way of 1 foot. It's in an industrial park. Everything that's going to be developed around here is all, high industry, and it won't affect anybody else. But I just got caught in the middle of not getting it up erected in a hurry. But I had a major road that I had to get built to be able to get to the structure, which I still got a lot more work, to do there also. So that's that one. You want me to go ahead and go to the next one too?
Sure, we're gonna try to take them at the same time.
All right, the next one is on Richard and Nancy Smith's property, and Nancy's here in the audience here. This one is, there's 3 billboard structures in line here that have a 1-foot setback off of the right-of-way. And then there's a power line that runs behind them that gives the power to all the billboard structures. This is at the corner of Daniel Road, Berry Drive, and I-20, where you have ServPro Restoration there, east-west truck lines, and then West Georgia Hydraulics. So there's a lot of industry in that area. The proposed spot I have here, the sign length is 48 feet. The catwalk walk around, which is how you get to one side to the other side, is a walk around. It's 5 feet. 1 foot for a setback for GDOT fence, and then the setback for Georgia Power can run anywhere from 15 feet to 20 feet, depending on if the sign structure's close to their pole or in the middle where the lines sway and that kind of thing. So if you add all that up, is 74 feet. The area I have to work with between GDOT right-of-way and the fence is 70 feet. So I'm going to have to work something with Georgia Power, hopefully, 3 or 4 feet, there. But the right-of-way here between the fence and the emergency lane is close to 100 feet. So I'm already, got like 100-foot setback, from the emergency lane. So I'm just asking to be able to make that 25-foot setback to, at least a 1 foot to keep consistent with every billboard structure in Vilorica that's, along I-20. But if you get the Vilorica setback of 25 feet and you add to that the 20 feet of Georgia Power setback, that only leaves you with 25 feet in here to build your structure in this one spot, which just won't work with 25 feet. So that's all I have, unless anybody's got any question.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant before I get back to staff? All right. Alan, if you'll just step to the side. Chris, will you come back up?
Here.
So, Mr. Gaston talked about a permit that he had that had been issued. Do you know when that permit was issued?
Yes, actually, the permit was issued as little as a few days before the adoption of the signed ordinance. And Mr. Gaston was very well aware of the changes that were going to be taking place and wanted to get his foot in the door to have a vested right.
Sure, I don't
However,
blame him. But do you remember when that was? Because I don't.
Yes, it was July 2019.
July 2019. Okay. And how long would that typically be good?
12 months.
12 months.
Yep.
So that would be July of 2020. Correct. Do we have a process for coming here for an extension?
They would have to, no.
Okay.
Really, they would have to come to the city council and
start again.
request an extension.
Well, that is the process, though.
Yeah, because then it would be basically, if their permit was terminating after 12 months, that they'd have to comply with the new code, and so they'd have to come in and apply for a variance.
Okay, and so we're more than 2 years out. I mean, we're some.
2+ years.
Yeah, we're more than 2 years out. Okay, all right, well, I wanted to understand that because it seems a little unreasonable for a person to have a permit, but now that it's over 2 years, the context matters.
Yes.
All right, council, does anybody have any questions for Chris, for staff? Ms. McPherson?
Yeah, and I think it's clarification on that. So when I was reading the background and the information we were giving and speaking with you, on the first one that's near the exit entrance ramp, it was my understanding that the permit was taken out under the prior ordinance, but that it expired before, that it's expired.
Correct.
And
Although,
really-
let me just, for a point of clarification, there are two types of permits here. One is a permit from
GDOT.
GDOT, and one's from the city.
The GDOT one is good, the city one has expired.
That's correct.
Was what I understood.
Yes.
Okay.
So because it expired, that's what would make it subject to the regulations of the new ordinance if it were to be applied for again.
Yes, and that's why the applicant is applying for the special exception to basically exempt themselves from the 500-foot setback from the on and off ramps for the first application, and from a reduction from 24 feet down to 1 foot, for what I understand, for the second application.
Or the one with the hardship?
Correct.
Okay, so is there any more questions? Because I still need to do a public hearing. Is there any more questions for staff before I do this public hearing? Okay, all right. So is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against either of these special exceptions that are otherwise known as variances? All right. So seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing portion. I'll revert back to staff, and I'll ask council if you have any further questions for staff or for the applicant, and then I'm going to take these items one at a time.
Okay,
Mr. Carter.
I've got to address this to the city attorney. Since I'm renting space on one of his billboards, should I excuse myself from this consideration?
Yes. If you have a financial interest with the applicant, yes.
All right, so Mr. Carter will recuse himself from discussion and from any vote here or motion. So, all right, back to my questions. Any council member have any questions for staff or for the applicant before I take these one at a time? All right, if there are no questions, does anyone seek recognition?
I move to deny
Mr. Young.
the exception to section 9.37H of the Vilorica sign ordinance to exempt billboards from being located within 500 feet of the frontage road of interstate on and off ramps.
All right, let me open this up real quick. So I have a motion from Mr. Young to deny the exception, otherwise known as a variance, to section 9.37H of the Vilorica sign ordinance to exempt billboards from being located within 500 feet of the frontage of interstate off and on ramps. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a proper second from Mr. Montahan. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? All opposed? Okay, so that'll be unanimous. We just won't have Mr. Carter because he will have abstained. All right, so that special exception variance will be denied. Let's move now to the second one. Is there anyone who seeks recognition?
I'll make the motion.
All right, Mr. Montahan.
I move to approve the exception to section 9.37C of the Vilorica sign ordinance and reduce the setback to 0 feet of the closest part of the sign from the GDOT right-of-way.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Mr. Montahan. I'm trying to pull it up. Which one is that? Is that number 10?
Yes.
Our internet's awfully slow today. Who's responsible for
just
that?
That's on dial-up, I thought.
They're using up the bandwidth.
I hope that's not what they're doing, but I noticed the chief was real quick to get behind you to point to who it was. All right, I have a motion for Mr. Montahan to approve the exception, otherwise known as a variance, to section 9.37C of the Vilorica sign ordinance and reduce the setback to 0 feet of the closest part of the sign from the GDOT right-of-way. Have a proper second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? That's unanimous, except that Mr. Carter will have abstained. All right. So that special exception / variance will be granted. All right, let's move on to C11. Amendment to Table 4.3, Permitted Uses Table contained in City of Vilorica Zoning Code. This item will also have a public hearing, and we'll recognize Ron.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an amendment to Table 4.3, which is our permitted uses table. If you recall from our last meeting, we talked about truck stops and travel centers and truck parking lots, etc. And it was at that meeting we actually had a change to the same permitted uses table where we made a special exception for the truck parking, or parking as a permitted use is what it's actually called, in the C2 and the I2 zones. So a discussion after that commenced. I believe it was Councilman Montahan that asked the question regarding the OMI zone and why we were still having a permitted uses for this parking as a permitted use in the area surrounding the hospital. And my answer to him was because the hospital may potentially expand that parking and it can become a primary, it would be a primary use on its individual lot. And also because truck parking may not actually go that far away from the interstate in a generally non-truck parking area. So I did speak with the city manager about this, and I believe at that meeting it was also said that it was recommended that the OMI zone also be a special exception use as well for truck parking. I then went on and took a look at our truck travel centers and truck stops, as we call them, which if we recall also from that meeting, we established that it was not only just a place for gas, but also some other truck-oriented uses are typically at these travel centers. So there's a little bit of a difference between it being a primary use of parking and also accessory use for a truck parking, a truck travel center. So what I've done here is I've made a special exception for truck parking or for parking as a permitted use, and for truck travel centers in all zones where it was already permitted in some way. So that would be the I2 zone, the C2 zone, and the OMI zone for truck parking. And then for the travel centers, it would be a special exception in the I2 zone and in the C2 zone. So all of these requests would have to come to the city council for a final approval if we get either of those types of uses. So we've had a lot of interest. We've had a lot of interest in truck parking, as I indicated at the last meeting. So we're just trying to make sure we clarify our ordinance and where the areas that we want it and versus the areas that we may not want it. So we thought it was imperative that the city council have a role in that decision-making process.
Okay, so again, we're calling this a special exception. But this is essentially to say that wherever there would have been parking permitted in any of the uses, now they will all come to the city council for approval. Is that correct?
For parking, yes, that's correct.
Council, do you have any questions for staff before I do the public hearing? Ms. McPherson.
Not questions, but I want you to put it into normal layman's language instead of C202, you know.
Sure.
If I were sitting out there, I'd be going, I do not know the heck what he's talking about. And I remember sitting out there and doing that. So if you can give the heart of the ordinance, in other words, the reason we may do this is because it will have this effect with trucks. Just something.
Absolutely.
You know, thank
so,
you.
The way that we currently have our ordinance and I'm just going to take these in two different uses here. So truck parking, we currently have it where truck parking is only permitted in what we call the OMI zone, which is an office medical institutional zone, which surrounds the Tanner Medical Center area. And then the I2 zone, which is an industrial medium density zone, as well as the commercial C2, commercial medium density zones, which are all around town, all your major shopping centers on Highway 61, et cetera. All that land we had in our ordinance as it being a special exception for truck parking, meaning they would have to come in front of the city council. We want to keep that going, and we want to continue that, expand that into the OMI zone, where we just have it as a permitted use. So someone could just come into City Hall tomorrow, and they can apply for a parking lot for trucks in the OMI zone, and that's something that would be permitted outright. But we want to change that to a special, what we've been calling a special exception, which means that there's an extra step in front of it, which would be the city council, in order to grant approval for them to operate that type of a use, being that there's some quality of life related issues with many truck parking spaces and things of that nature, truck parking lots. And the second part of this is related to truck travel centers, and like the Pilot, for example, on Edge Road in Liberty. Those uses would also all be special exception uses as well, meaning they would come in front of the city council. So right now we have it as the C2 zone allows that as a permitted use, and the I2 zone has that as a special exception, which is what we wanted to keep, which didn't really make much sense, because of course you would have your truck stops in your commercial zone, but they would have to come to the city council for a special exception in an industrial zone. So we wanted to keep that clear across the board, as all of them would need to come before the city council to grant final approval.
I'm gonna start
Did
charging
that
you
help?
by the word.
I don't think that helps.
That was a whole lot.
Do you wanna
and
take a
I feel like
shot?
she probably feels like the whole thing was about her.
I'm
So let me
sorry.
remind you to address all of your presentations to the mayor and council. All right, Mr. Barber.
So what this does, in layman's terms, is going forward, anytime somebody wants to build a truck parking lot, they have to come to you.
All right.
Always.
That's what I said.
And anytime somebody wants to build a truck stop, they have to come to you. There is no place in our zoning where it is a right.
But
Right.
there are permitted uses.
But there is the possibility that you could vote to permit it.
All right,
Is that
Mr.
better?
Young.
Ron, special exception versus variance, are there any timeframes around a special exception? Because we've done some temporary special exceptions in residential areas for odd stuff, but is there a time frame for this? Special exception is good for X many years, it's transferable, if the use of the property changes, it goes away completely, or?
Yeah, so, and Chris, you can.
Well, wait a minute. Avery, would you, let me just let's clean this up. Is that gonna be the same thing? Tell us if there's a difference. That's the legal piece.
Right. There's no difference between a special exception and a variance. They're the same.
So it's gonna be governed by the same set of
They're
criteria.
interchangeable terms for the
All right.
same type.
Okay.
But that
All
is
right.
different than a special use permit, which is
Well,
what Mr. Young may be referring to in
He didn't say
residential
that.
areas.
All right, so hold up. I need to do a public hearing, and time is running out. So let me see if there's anybody here who would like to speak for or against this change to the permitted uses table. Anybody? All right, if there's none, so I'll close the public hearing, and let me come back to staff. The council, do you have any questions for staff before I get to a motion on this? Lord have mercy. All right, can I get a motion?
Actually, I might.
Oh, you do?
Not a question, but, all right, I can't find it. It's fine.
All right,
I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Young, please.
I move to approve the proposed amendment to parking lots and structures as a primary use in Table 4.3 of the City of Vilorica zoning ordinance as attached hereto. And I move to approve the proposed amendment to truck stops / travel centers in Table 4.3 of the City of Vilorica zoning ordinance as attached hereto.
Second.
All right, I have a motion, and a second. I'm not going to read that whole thing. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All right, that's unanimous. All right, thank you, Ron. Okay, Chris, would you see what that thermostat is set on? It seems awfully hot in here. And I'm about to hear about the money too. All right, Ms. Hallman, come on up for a financial update for July 2021. You realize we're in September?
Yes.
All right, you got it up? All right. Go ahead, Jennifer. When it's up.
Will you go to that V drive and pull up the presentation? Oh, you're trying to do? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good deal. Go.
Okay, here we go. This is the financial update for July 2021. As you can see, our cash, we have pooled cash of totaling $28.8 million, the general fund being around 9.5, water and sewer being just under $4 million. We did receive the American Rescue Plan, which we have not spent yet. Half of that, which is just under $3 million. And then the 2021 Carol Splost, we issued bonds, or they issued bonds on our behalf. Therefore, there's $4.5 million in that fund. Growth, as you know, growth this year for this fiscal year has slowed down. While we had 0 permits, residential permits, in June of this year, we had 5 this year. Let me slow down. 5 in July of this year. But we definitely will not be at where we were last year. Sales tax, we still are seeing growth in our sales tax. For Carroll County sales tax is $160,000, which is 17.1% increase from the prior year, and $142,000 from Douglas County, which is around the same 17.2% increase from last year. Again, another revenue source that we're seeing an increase in post-COVID is the hotel motel tax. The first 2 quarters of the fiscal year, we had a decline, but April through June had a 64% increase, and then just the month of July had a 63% increase. So overall, we had a 15% increase in hotel motel tax. As you know, we have 2 business activities, which one being the water and sewer fund. Our revenues are less this year than they were last year. Again, that's due to the growth, the water and sewer taps. We're not receiving those revenue sources. But overall, our net income for July 2020 through July 2021 is $311,000. For sanitation and solid waste, we have total revenue of $1.1 million, with expenses being around the same. So we have right now a loss of $9,850. As you know, we're self-funded with our health care. Our bank balance, our cash in the bank is $697,000. You can see the third quarter of our fiscal year, we did experience a loss. That was kind of some pretty hefty months. However, it looks like July, we were able to pull through with positive. So our overall loss so far this year is $90,000. And that is it.
All right, Council, do you have any questions for Jennifer? All right, you did a good job, Jennifer. Thank you. Okay, you do have another item, though. I don't know if you'll get off scot-free on this one. We'll see. Okay, so E2 is the adoption of the 2022 budget. We've been through a number of hearings. We've been through a number of presentations and workshops. I'm going to ask if council has any questions or anything on the budget before we look to a motion. All right, if there are none, then I would entertain a motion. Who seeks to be recognized?
I'll make the motion, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right, Mr. Young.
I move to approve the resolution adopting the 2022 operating and capital budget totaling $786,859.
All right. I have a motion to approve the 2022 budget and a second from Councilwoman Marchman. Is there any discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. You did get off scot-free.
Thank you.
But you've been working hard since
Yes.
April, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you. Okay, with that, we get to the most exciting part of my month. I don't know about y'all, but Mr. Barber gets 2 minutes. I'm just kidding. I'm going to give you 3.
3.
All right, go ahead.
At least he called you Mr. Barber instead of Mr. Happy.
All right, so I wanted to give you an idea about how I'm viewing things, because we talk about, meetings and stuff, but this has been really interesting. The last several months, we have watched housing starts almost go to zero. And the only place we're really building now is Liberty Point. So we're in this citywide, really significant transition from the post-2008 economy to the new, what I'm going to call the 2022 economy, because we're really not going to see this year, this calendar year. But the number of projects that are being proposed is overwhelming. And I don't know that interest rates are going to stay low and gas prices are going to stay where they are and the economy is going to keep doing good. But you saw those housing numbers a while ago in the inline presentation. And I think I've told most of you all this, is almost the whole time I've been here, I've been asking the folks that do inspections, how many times are you seeing a new house go through construction with a for sale sign? And the answer uniformly has been never. So every house that we've built during these last 4 years has been sold either pre-construction or during construction. Now there's basically nothing to buy. I've had 2 people recently call me who I don't know from Adams House Cat saying, look, I've sold my house and I want to move to Vilorica and I can't find a single person to build a house for me. And these are guys with cash in hand, just sold their property, can't move here because there's nowhere to live. So this is really interesting. There's huge pressure for to build new housing right now. And so it just seems like people are popping out of the woodwork, whether it's apartments, townhomes, even now, you just saw tonight, our first new neighborhood, truly new from scratch neighborhood. And so next year might just be crazy. Stuff's going to start in March and April and May. That's, when the weather turns, Bobby's going to have LDPs that have been issued and people are going to start turning dirt, knocking down trees and grading. But 2023 is going to be insane unless something happens. And we're not in a place where we can handle that. I mean, I know we're not, because we were only set up to do 18 and 19 and 20 volume, right? And so now we're overstaffed, right? Because we've lost all of our housing activity. And so what our 2 inspectors are doing is they've been in the Avante building constructing a sign shop, right? So that's what we've done on that side. And then you all know that we lost a person in City Hall, so we just didn't replace them, right? Because the activities dropped so significantly. But that's going to change, and unless, and like I said, there's big environmental things that could change that we don't have any control over. But if the big stuff doesn't change, the rates and the gas price and all that, we're going to get hammered. And it'll be great when it's all over and we look back on it. But I just want you to know that's where we're headed. So in this year, I think that we're going to investigate a couple of things. One is we're going to look hard at the GFL contract and how we're doing that, because that comes up in March. So we'll be bringing you some stuff on that. We're also going to be looking at some additional adjustments to the way that we're organized, because we're going to need more managers. And this little time bomb that's ticking called age is still ticking. So Pete, me, Bobby, right, several of us that are at that age, Elisa in a couple of years, Charlie Davis. I mean, I can go down the list, and you know who most all those folks are. You know, that's going to get us at some point, right? And so we're trying to do some succession planning, and y'all are, you know, working right in there with us. Y'all know what we're doing. So I just want you to know that next year is going to be really interesting, and the year after that, you're just going to have to see it to believe it. Like we ticked off today more than 20 projects that could start next year. Like neighborhood level, right? And you've been seeing them. Chapman Townhomes next to First Baptist, Rock Haven Townhomes next to the fire station, Northwoods Phase, what, Bobby, 2 and 3, Fairway 16 and 17, Water Mist something or other, South Harbor 2A and 2B, the LGI project at Nally, and just Twin Oaks 2, Charleston Place 3, all of that stuff, Avamore, what I call the Kroger hole, the apartments behind the high school, right? I mean,
the one tonight.
Y'all know, I'm not telling you hardly anything you don't know. I'll tell you what you don't know. I've got projects now for almost the whole first TAD.
That's a big deal.
If we can get that thing approved by the school system and the county and get that road built and build that, I don't know how many people that is, but it's 2,000 or 3,000 new residents, plus the commercial.
And it's $300 million.
Maybe
in that
of
range.
Investment, yeah.
Yep.
200 to 300 million added to the digest. So anyway, I just want to let you know what I'm seeing. It's almost every day now. Bobby and I and Sarah are meeting with somebody coming in, just like Inline. You know, we've been meeting with them. Matthew's been meeting with them. This is just like becoming a regular thing now. Everybody getting ready for next year. You know, looking ahead. Can I get zoned this fall and winter? Can I get permitted in LDPs for next year? Can I get my engineering done and start turning dirt in March? That's where we're headed. And believe it or not, the GDOT let date for the bypass is next April, which seemed like 100 years away when I got here, but it's next April.
All right. Any questions for Tom? Mr. Young?
Tom, do you think the massive sales tax increase out of TAD 1 will be persuasive enough to the school system?
That's what I'm hoping.
I mean,
it's a lot of residential increase.
I mean,
you know, so it's a
the numbers I heard were approaching $1 million a year in sales tax, and even if they give up property taxes for a period of time, they get instant gratification.
Yeah, the sales tax numbers are more like 600. But hold on.
Well, that was for one project,
right?
But
it's the only commercial in the whole thing, right? Almost all the rest of it's residential, which is.
But they spend money. elsewhere?
Let's see. 1.2. I don't know if I can do that. The property tax could be more than $1 million built.
Well, when it
When-
builds, he's
after-
talking about
after-
sort of on the
But
path.
just the E-Splosh part.
The East Bloss part of it, that where
Right.
they don't have to give up their money for 10 years. They get something.
They get, yeah, they may, the way that it's broken down is the school system gets, help me, Sarah, was it 77%? Right? The Carrollton school system gets 20-something? 23 or 26, and then Bremen gets something. Right, and so they don't get 100% of it, is my point, right? But they get like 3/4 of it. So if it's $600,000, they get $450 right off the bat, you know, once the stores are all operating. And then if we get some more commercial downtown, that would add to it, right?
Well, to your point, though, it's multi-pronged. There's not just a one-size-fits the school system. They're not just looking at dollars and cents. You ask if the dollars would be enough. The dollars is going to be enough, but they have to look at the entire impact of the system with the students and stuff like that. We'll be putting together a better presentation real soon because we're going to need to get this out.
One of the advantages that I think the TAD presents for the school system is if we don't do the road and we don't do the TAD, then that area could still develop, but it could develop like Liberty Point. Right, and then you're going to get no commercial and no East Blast, and you're going to get, 20% of the property tax or something. Right? So, I mean, so there's more to it than just the immediate numbers. It's, and then what does that do to Vilorica if we get the better growth now? What's that do to our future growth? Because there's a big ripple then. And it benefits everybody because you're only talking about the East Block. The sales tax is going to benefit everybody. Mount Zion and Bowden and Temple and everybody. That's all goes into one bucket and everybody gets a percentage, right? So as that bucket gets bigger, everybody gets more money.
I think in short, we believe that the arguments for the TAD are very persuasive for everyone. All right, is there any other questions for Tom?
Yeah, I had one.
Mr. Carter.
We were looking to get some more water into Vilorica. Have we made any progress on that?
We're having some pretty interesting conversations, so we'll see. We'll bring you something.
That's that contract we voted on earlier.
You just voted on something to help me with that.
That guy is really working on that.
I am not exaggerating when I say to you that I think he understands what I'm trying to do better than I do. I mean, like he's in the business. I mean, like past.
He knows what we don't know.
He understands it better than I do. So I sort of explained the problem, but he understands what to go do better than I do.
Right.
Because he knows people I don't know, and so
All right.
it's been encouraging.
Anything else? Anybody else? Okay. All right. It's been a pleasure. We got 3 minutes till we hit the 8 o'clock mark. You have anything for us, Avery? Anything you need to follow up on?
I do not.
Madam Clerk, anything? All right. And Tom, you've talked enough. Sarah, do you have anything? All right. Then we will be adjourned. No, I have to take a motion.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right. I knew you was waiting.
Second it.
I knew it.